Years ago, I made a mistake that quietly cost me well over six figures, not from bad sales, not from bad marketing, but from something far more subtle, undercharging. Now, this isn't a beginner problem. So before you think, wait, that's just a newbie mistake, let me stop you. I wasn't new. I had the clients, I had the demand, I had the results, all of it. And honestly, the more experienced you are, the more dangerous this mistake becomes because undercharging doesn't look like insecurity anymore. It looks like generosity, capability, a willingness to take on more because you can. And that combination is exactly how I lost more than six figures without realizing it until much later. And here's the thing about undercharging. This is why it's so sneaky. It never feels like a mistake in the moment. It feels thoughtful. It feels accommodating. It even feels mature. You tell yourself, oh, I can handle it. I want to help. I want to show the client that I'm a team player and I want to help them as much as I can. This will just take me a few minutes. And that's exactly how I talked myself into months of work that when I finally did the math, added up to that six-figure gap between what I delivered and what I charged. And I want to tell this story to you so that if you feel that pang of, I think I might be doing way more work than what I told the client I would do, or if you know that you're undercharging, you'll listen to this story and avoid this costly mistake that I made. And before I get into it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if these videos are benefiting you and your business. So here's how it happened. Years ago, I made the exciting jump. For any service provider, the exciting jump is going from just scoping out a flat fee to moving into retainer work where a client pays you a certain amount of money per month. And I was so excited to make this jump because I felt so mature. I felt so advanced in my business. And at the time, I took on a client with a project that really looked super simple and straightforward on the surface. Clean scope, clear deliverables, a very straightforward retainer every single month. But the mistake that I made is that I priced it by the hour. And hourly pricing is the quietest trap in business because it makes everything look flexible. You tell the client, well, I'll work and do things, and you have 20 hours of my time per month to effectively get to this goal, whatever goal it is that we decided on. And so it makes everything look flexible. When in reality, what ends up happening is the client will inevitably do this. And it doesn't make the client a bad person. It doesn't make them like malicious or mean, but it's going to happen where they just send you an email and say, hey, we've got X number of hours left. Could we move those hours from what we were doing over here to doing something over here? And it feels small. And I found myself very quickly just saying yes, because I cared about the work. I really liked the client. And like most high capacity founders that I work with, I believed I could just handle it. I could take it on. But here's the thing that I should have caught. Those quick asks, right? Like, oh, can we quickly just, I need help with this. Can you help me move it across the finish line? Or can you help me with this? I should have said, this isn't what we scoped, or this isn't part of what we initially agreed upon. We need to have a conversation about this and how it fits in with potentially another project and just scope that out separately. And the challenge is when you think, oh, it's just, a few minutes, it's not going to take me that long. It snowballs because once you're open and once you let that kind of shifting happen, that's when the client will see, oh, now the hours are flexible. Now I can do whatever I want with them. And see, that's the trap. So every one of those, oh, could you just take a few minutes to look at this? Or could you help me with that? Or could you help me get this across the finish line? All of those stack like bricks. Little by little, the work expands, the expectations expand. And before I knew it, I wasn't just delivering the original scope. I was also providing strategy, managing team, helping with creating things that were going to help them grow their business and scale their business and make more sales, all at the same rate, the same hours, and with the same expectations. And yes, of course, once I sat down, I was like, wait a second, this is really starting to take a lot of my time, or this is a lot more involved than I thought it would be at the beginning. I just didn't see the cost building up because it was so gradual. And when I sat down and added it up, I know this cost me well more than six figures in revenue, which stings. But I think even more than that, because this is one of those things that happens so gradually, this is what builds that kind of resentment that can occur between a service provider and the client. And I'll be clear, this is not the client's fault. This had nothing to do with the client waking up in the morning and thinking, how can I take advantage of Jessica? How can I take advantage of this situation? They're a busy business owner. And if they know, wow, I have this person that's helping me out and they're capable of doing all these things, why wouldn't I ask them? No, This was all of my responsibility. So the client didn't cross the line. And this didn't happen as well because I wasn't capable. It was because I priced myself like I was trying to prove myself. And I was like, oh, maybe, I feel bad about asking them to pay a little bit more. So I'll show them that I can handle these things, that I can do these things. And maybe down the line, we'll have a conversation about how I can raise my rates. And so that's what kind of sets up this really frustrating cycle for service providers like you watching this, where you can get kind of trapped in this situation where you're well overperforming and over delivering and not charging enough. And I think the most interesting part of this, and you might have experienced this as well if you've ever found yourself undercharging for a client, is when I finally saw that number of what I was leaving on a table, it wasn't really the revenue that hit me. It wasn't the fact that I was leaving all that money on a table. Of course, that stung, but really what hit me was the mismatch. And that my work had outgrown my pricing, and that my expertise had outgrown the boundaries. And my identity, unfortunately, was still stuck at that level. So I was performing over here in terms of the quality of the deliverables and the caliber of what I was doing, but I was still stuck kind of talking about packaging and charging for my services over here. And it was that gap that was really creating so much of the frustration. And I had to make sure that if I was going to move forward and still do this kind of service for clients, that I was able to close that gap and really step into that identity that I don't have anything to prove. And I think so many service providers feel this way, even though we come to the table with so much expertise. It's like, well, I will just do a lot more work, or I'll take a lot more on so the client will see how amazing I am or how talented I am, or I don't quite feel ready to charge this amount because I don't know, I have to go take more certifications or put more time in the field. And just none of that is true. So ultimately, here's how I change this. Here's how I fix this. I had to stop charging hourly. I had to stop thinking of my services as a block of hours that a client could use per month, because no matter what, and this happened with multiple clients, the scope inevitably ended up drifting, and I kept expecting that the client would understand the boundary, but really it was my responsibility to hold on to it. I had to stop being generous in ways that cost me more than it helped anyone that I was working with. And I restructured the way that I work so that it protects my time, my expertise, my energy, and ultimately the client experience. So really, in the end, it benefited the both of us. And that shift was immediate. The work got lighter, expectations were just clearer, and the client and I were able to get what we needed to get done. And there wasn't any of that potential friction that was happening because I was doing work that I wasn't supposed to be doing, and I was building resentment underneath. And so the clients got clear, the results got better. And finally, this is what I was meaning by this is so much more important. The business finally reflected the level that I was actually performing at. And what I learned is something that most established founders eventually face. And this is why I said it's not just a newbie problem. You don't undercharge because you're unsure. You undercharge because you're capable, because you really care, because you can make anything work no matter what is thrown at you. But the more capable you are, the more expensive that flexibility becomes. And the cost of that mismatch between who you are now and the way your business is built is massive. If this moment hit a little too close to home, good. I'm glad that it did, because I don't want you to make the same mistake that I did. And this is usually the moment that founders are ready for strategic support. And this is the work that I do at the highest level, helping experienced founders like you elevate their pricing, tighten their structure, and build a business model that supports excellence, not that burnout, not that resentment, not that knowing you're leaving money on the table. So use the link in the description to book a call with me, and we'll look at what's working, what's costing you, and what your business requires next of you. And if we're a right fit, I'll walk you through exactly what that path looks like.